All right, folks. So today we are coming at you with the first Glock that we're reviewing on the channel. Now, I love Glocks. I probably have half a dozen or more of these. But this one kind of has a special place in my heart, and not particularly this exact pistol, but this model. So what we got here is the Glock 37 in 45 gap. And if you were not familiar what 45 gap is, it is stands for Glock automatic pistol. It's basically like a shortened 45 auto, kind of. But you see here, you get the standard. I'm sure people watching this video, you get the standard Glock box, the brush, the little, mag loader, the rod right there, your chintzy lock, and you get an extra mag. So let's set all this stuff aside and set it aside. Just take a look at the pistol here. All right, here we go. The pistol. So what is the 45 gap and what was the intention behind 45 gap? By the way, this is a 45, a model 37 in 45 gap Gen 3. So it has the standard recoil system, the older one, and not the Gen 4s. And I bought that. They had an option to buy a Gen 4. Surprisingly enough, Glock is still making these. I think this came out in like 2003, 2004. And so it's over 20 years old. And I figured they wouldn't be making them anymore and I'd have to buy a used one. But sure enough, they still make them. They had a provision for Gen 4. The original one of these I had was actually Gen 3 because I bought it right when it first came out, when it was hot. And a lot of companies were making ammo for it. That is not the case anymore, though, I will have to say. But I went with the Gen 3 for nostalgia purposes, although I think Gen 4s shoot a little bit softer with the dual captured recoil system. But that's okay, because, again, I wanted the nostalgia part of this. So, for those who don't know and weren't around in the firearms game in the early 2000s when this came out, what Glock attempted to do with this pistol is get a 45 caliber bullet in the size of a 9mm handgun. So this is basically a Glock 17 frame. You know, the 17, the 22, the 32, isn't it? All the small frame or smaller frame Glocks, the 9s, 40s, 357 SIGs, those. And then you have like the 10mm and the 45 auto, which were the big boys. They're much bigger guns, and they did not fit a lot of people's hands. I have regular size to maybe a little bit big hands, and I was, struggling to hold on to the Glock 21 and the 20. They're big guns. This is before, now guys, you got to understand, this is before Gen 5 and all this other kind of stuff. So they attempted to, or actually what they did, they succeeded. It just hasn't been a commercial success. So what they did was, or what their goal was to put, again, a 45 caliber bullet. Look how huge the hole is on that thing, into a Glock 17 sized gun. And they almost got there. I'm gonna say almost because, again, this is a Glock 17 size frame, but the slide is a little bit bigger than a Glock 17. It's just a little bit fatter to accommodate the big fat cartridge. So again, it came with two 10-round magazines. Now 10 rounds is all you can fit. This is a Glock 17, again, sized magazine. Of course, the feed lips are wider to accommodate the cartridge, and because of the diameter of the cartridge, you can only get 10 in there, 10 plus 1. So you get 11 rounds of 45 gap. And I know people are like, who would want that and all that other kind of stuff. Well, there are some people that want a big, heavy 45 caliber bullet in a smaller size gun. And I get it. I understand the reasoning behind it. But like with everything in firearms design and life, it's about a balance. You can only, there's math involved. There's all kinds of stuff involved where you can only fit, because of diameter of cartridges and all kinds of other stuff, you can only fit so many rounds in the gun. And I think it's because it was a proprietary cartridge. A lot of people are so ingrained in their 9, 40, and 45 when it comes to handguns. And 9mm is by far the most popular handguard cartridge, by far. So people are kind of stuck in there. Well, I already have a bunch of 9s. I'm not going to buy any different caliber. And I'm with you on that one. For economy, for all that kind of issues, I wouldn't either. But I kind of like weird calibers, kind of like odd stuff. I have 30 super carry, a 45 gap, a 38 super. I like a 22 TCM. I kind of like off the wall stuff. But like I said, the main reason I bought this was I ended up getting rid of the one I had, and I really wish I hadn't. I really wish I had kept it. So I had the opportunity to buy a new one, and I did. So let's, just kind of see what makes this a little bit different. It's brand new than the, Glock 17. And that's mostly the slide. So I'll take the slide off and show you the difference. So again, this 1722 style frame, but the slide is beefy, and they kind of had to, can you see where they had to round it down right there? And again, Gen 3, so it has a standard recoil spring, and look at the hole on that bad boy. You can see to the moon on that side. That's a big 45 caliber slug you're launching out of here. Again, the slide is fatter. Let's see how much fatter though. I don't have a Glock 17 anymore. I do have a Glock 45. And I just, it's in the safe. I didn't break it out, but they have the same width slide. But you could find the width of the slide online. I think it's close to 1 inch. And this one is probably like, why is it 28mm? Let's switch. There you go. Okay, 1.15 right there. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, the Glock 17 is right about 1 inch. So you are just a little bit thicker, again, to accommodate that cartridge. And while we have the gun apart so that there's no issue with ammunition, I don't normally bring live ammo here, but I wanted to give you guys a comparison so you could take a look at what the difference is between 45 gap and 45 auto. So obviously this is auto on the right, this is gap on the left. They basically shortened the 45 auto by about 1/4 inch, or enough to get it to fit in the magazine. And they also, as you can see, the for the rim, they reduced that. It's taller on the 45 auto than it is on the 45 gap, and they made it to small pistol primers instead of large. So 45 auto takes large pistol primers, 45 gap takes small. And I believe that was what they said, was because of the ejector. This is, I'm sure this is a different geometry, but it looks a lot like the Glock, 1722 ejector. They didn't want the risk of it, boom, hitting the edge of the primer, which is a thing if they use large pistol primers. So they went to small. Also, for the full metal jacket, they like to use the flat nose ones to help them get into the magazine too. So that's where the difference is. You can see down here. I'm sure they probably, if you really dug into it, they probably strengthened the web in there. But if you're a reloader, let me show you 45 auto. If you're a reloader, normally around 5 grains of whatever powder it is. Now it can go lower or higher, but a nice average of pistol powder is probably about 5 grains. And in a 45 auto, it comes to about right there, 5 grains of powder. So you have a lot of airspace from the bullet to here to actually reduce the case capacity and still use the same charge. And I think that's what also the thing they were going for, is they wanted to be able to get the same velocity of 45 ACP in a shorter case, because there's so much airspace in there with 45 auto, you can get away with that. Same thing with like that they did with 30-06 and 308. 30-06 is basically a 308 is basically a shortened 30-06. They said there's a lot of shorten it. They did the same thing with 40 and 10 millimeter to get them to fit into smaller guns. So that's what that deal is. Let me show you what it looks like in the magazine. So that's what they wanted to get that little puppy in there, and I'll show you what a 45 auto looks like as it fits the one round, but then no dice. So there was no way it was going to fit in there. They had to chop it back. And that's basically what they did. Now, where do I think this gun fits in? Let me get this out of here. Where do I think this gun fits in nowadays? A lot of people are not ready to take on a new caliber with the costs associated with it. And one of the other problems is there's only one manufacturer of the ammo for it still. So if you don't reload, and I reload, you're kind of screwed. And I couldn't find any defensive ammo for this bad boy anywhere. So I'll have to make my own. I can only find Full Metal Jacket, and they only have like 200 grain and 185 grain. And I believe Spear is the only company that still makes it. And if I'm not mistaken, that's who it was Spear and Glock that went in together to make the 45 gap. I think this is, I hope we see a resurgence of this. I think also Springfield Armory XD, they chambered a couple guns in 45 gap. But other than Glock and Springfield Armory, I don't think there was any other manufacturers. So this one's just barely hanging on by life support. There's only one company manufacturing ammo for it now. But I think this is a great gun for band states that have like 10 round capacity bands. Now, don't get me wrong. I think that's all bullshit. I think it's against the Constitution. I think it's some communist ass crap that we need to get rid of. But for the time being, sometimes people don't want to cross law enforcement and catch those charges. So they're stuck with their 10 round mags. So my question to you is, why would you have a Glock 17 or a Glock 22 with 10 round mags? If you're limited to 10 rounds, why would you have 9mm when you can have 10 rounds of 45? And you're sending a 200 grain pill down range as opposed to 115s or what, But that's just me. I think this would be a perfect gun to be marketed to banned states. Well, you know what though? Let's get away. Let's stop talking here. I'm gonna stop talking and I'm gonna start weighing and getting trigger pulls, and then we'll get it out to the range. So the weight of the empty gun is 26.06 ounces, and with the factory supplied magazine, 28.74. All right, 28.74. Let's set this aside. Let's get the old trigger gauge, and it's probably, if I'm a guessing man, going to be the standard Glock 5.5, 7 pound, whatever trigger. Let's see here. Let's get that shoot. It keeps wanting to slide up there. Hold on. 486. .618 and 526. So I'm guessing, and that's kind of a thing. Oh, old Glocks used to do that with the Gen 3. Now, when you shoot it, it doesn't do it, and as you shoot them more, they will break in. But as you can see right here, I should have brought that Glock 45. You could tell it's a Gen 3 and an older one because that shelf right there on the front of the barrel is practically square. They kind of angle those off now a little bit back so they'll unlock sooner. But that was one of the issues that a lot of Gen 3s had. But we're going to take out the range, and I guarantee it'll work. It's Glock, man. So you know what? Let's get it out to the range and see how she shoots. All right, guys, accuracy portion of this review. So let's try this again. Ignore these. These are two previous ones. I think it's like M17 review and the Ronin, Springfield Army Ronin. The stickies is so cold out here. The stickies just keep flying off. So we're going to try it again. We're going to put them in a different place. Right here, we'll stick this one right here. And hopefully it'll stick, and we'll stick one up here because I got the Glock 37 to do, and the another pistol. I don't know, I forgot. But we'll stick these on, see if they stick at least for 3 rounds. We're gonna go back 7 yards. I forgot my pistol. You know what? I'm gonna cut this. I'm gonna go get the pistol, and then we're gonna shoot these from 7 yards. Okay. All right, guys, we're back with the Glock 37 45 gap. We'll shoot, you know what? We'll shoot this one from 7 yards. We got the 200 grain Spear Lawman. Let's go back 7 yards and shoot it. See what she can do. Well. I must say, if you go back and watch the video, I believe I put 2 shots in 1 hole. Yeah, don't sleep on 45 gap, okay? So let's go back and get the final thoughts. All right, guys, final thoughts on the Glock 37. This is the full size 45 gap. As talked about, as discussed in the tabletop, I think it's great. I think what Glock and Spear were trying to go for is kind of cool. I'm sad to see it didn't take off. It does have a little bit more recoil than the Glock. Than the 21s and the full size 45 auto. But the full size 45 auto is a huge gun. Again, guys, this is Glock 17 size. The frame is Glock 17. The slide is a little bit fatter, as talked about. And if you know me or know my channel at all, I like weird stuff. This was more of a nostalgia gun because I had one when they first came out and they were hot. I got rid of it and I said, you know what? I wish I'd never gotten rid of that gun. And I want another one. I figured, they were long out of production because it's not a popular cartridge anymore. But no, the Glock is still making them. Unfortunately, the only people making ammunition is Spear, and they only make the 200 and the 185 grain, I think, Spear Lawman, the ball stuff. But it's a good thing that I reload. So I'll be reloading this. I think what they were doing was trying to stuff a 45. I mean, look at that hole, man. Come on, man. 45 caliber cartridge in a 9mm/40 size framed gun. I think they did a pretty good job of that. And you're not losing any ballistics in that. How can you argue with it? Except, again, the ammo availability is the big problem with this gun. If you don't reload and you don't, you're not going to shoot a lot. I think the boxes of 50 rounds are going for almost $40. It's pretty expensive. It's disgusting, really. However, as discussed earlier on the tabletop, I think this would be a fantastic gun for banned states. Yeah, I know, Constitution, all that stuff. I think it's all bull crap. It's one of the many reasons that we moved out here to Wyoming. We were not in a banned state, but I'm just saying, one of the many reasons that we did. But the standard capacity on these is 10+1. So you get 11 rounds of 45 gap, which again closely matches, if not outperforms, 45 ACP. Okay, in a 9mm size gun. So you don't have to worry about any mag restrictions. If you're in one of those banned states that's got the little piddly 10-round mags, why would you get a 10-round 9mm? Get you one of these. Let's bring the gap back alive, baby. So again, this brings back a lot of nostalgia for me. I dig it. It's accurate, as you saw. It's very accurate. It's reliable. It's a Glock. and I think it's outstanding. So thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.